Welcome back to the show, family. This is the One Dope Couple Show with your host, John Trone, and my beautiful queen,
Adoria.
Today, family, we are going to be talking about the impact the environment plays on your relationships. And the crazy thing about this is I want to be able to share with you guys something that I picked up from a book I read called How to Own Your Own Mind. It's by Napoleon Hill, and he's talking about the impact the environment plays on who we ultimately become, the way we think, the way that we believe, and all of those different things. And I want you guys to be able to think about this stuff and how it impacts you and the way that you think regarding your relationship and how you show up in your relationship. So to give some context, I'm going to read through you guys what he says in the book, and then we're going to pose a question and we're going to go from there.
Sound good?
Good with me, baby?
I'm good with you.
Good with it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So he says, through the operation of the law of social heredity, most people acquire their thoughts, ideas, beliefs, opinions, and thinking habits. This law is one of the laws. Oops, hold up. I read that wrong. Through this law, we learn that most of our thoughts and beliefs are just a reflection of the people nearest us. Every human being is influenced by two things: social and physical heredity. Physical heredity is the traits passed down through us by generations before us, the things that don't change. Because physical heredity can't be changed, the only way to overcome it is through the use of social heredity. Social heredity, put simply, is basically who you become based on the environment around you. This is school, this is religious training, this is your work environment, the books you read, your friends, social media. It's basically anything and everything outside of you that influences the way that you think and you believe. Mm. Because of social heredity, most people are secondhand thinkers and only think and reflect the thoughts and ideas and the beliefs of those around them. Most people neglect their ability to think freely and become the victims of faulty thinking of those around them. Now, take in mind, this book was written in 1941. So how do you think this law has impacted people today around their thoughts and beliefs regarding their values, regarding marriage and meaningful relationships? That's a lot.
That is a lot.
But even though it's a lot, I think it's so relevant because today we get so much of an influx of information dumped on us because of social media, because of friends and families and all of these different things. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware of how much those influences really shape who they are.
Right.
And not to mention the fact that a lot of people don't choose their influences. So thinking about that, what if we decided the type of marriage and relationships that we actually wanted to have, and we curated our environments to match our desired outcome rather than just unconsciously taking in everything around us with no thought or no intention at all? Because that's what happens to a lot of people.
Right.
You see so many people today, who are so comfortable bashing marriage, bashing relationships and all of these things, right? And they just let it happen because the people saying these things seem like they're making sense, so to say.
Right.
But a lot of the times, all they're doing is looking for ways to justify their own doubts and their own limiting beliefs based off of whatever information they have.
Right.
But you get to choose the weight of that information in your own life.
Right.
And regardless of how logical it may seem or what somebody else's beliefs are behind that, you should have the conscious awareness to be able to choose your own thoughts and beliefs based off of your genuine desires. And why would you want to consume information that diminishes the values of what you actually want in your life?
That's so good. I literally made a story post the other day where I was saying it's okay to unfollow pages that don't align with who you are, but especially who you desire to be.
Real talk.
Because why would you follow pages that go against or speak against what you actually want in your life? If you desire to have healthy, meaningful relationships and ultimately, a marriage, why would you follow pages that talk down about that thing?
Right.
And why would you go into the comments and argue with people about those things? Why not just, you know what? I'm not going to engage with that because that's not what I desire. So I'm going to go over here and make sure I'm following pages that are in alignment with who I am and who I ultimately want to be and what I want to have in life.
And it's not that complicated.
I don't think it's that complicated. I think it makes actual sense. And something else I added on that, I said that sometimes being in the know or being nosy as hell is actually hurting you. You know all the information that's on the big media pages. You know what the drama that's going on. You know all of this stuff. But how is that helping you? How is that getting you closer to what you say you want? It's really not. It's really not. At all. Yeah. So yeah, that's good.
And the thing is my guy said this. This was, I think I said it was written by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, in 1941.
1941.
Yes.
Bruh, this was newspaper time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is where the majority of the information people was getting was coming from the newspaper. Not even a lot of people probably had TVs at this time, if I had to guess.
Right.
And from this book, you could tell that people were still falling subject to the same things back then. Even though their influences were way less, like it was minimized to such a huge degree. But nowadays, it's so easy. And people aren't as aware of how much those things influence them as I think that we probably should be. And this ain't to say that, you know, that we're above anybody, because we've all been there.
Right.
But it's like after you become aware of that, what do you do next? So if you're somebody who values love, if you're somebody who values meaningful relationships, then it would probably be in your best interest to consume information, to be around other people that have those same values, so that way it can reinforce the beliefs that you desire to have about why marriage is so valuable, about why having a relationship that's meaningful where two people add so much value to one another is so beneficial to you and what you could have if you don't have that already.
Right.
Reinforce the beliefs that you desire to have, and it's okay to reject the ones that you don't want to have. Absolutely. It's completely okay.
Right.
And even though there are people that'll defend it, there's good and bad on both sides, but you get more of the one that you're actively paying attention to.
Right.
So if you have all of these other sources outside of you that are tearing down something that you want to have, maybe I should spend my time somewhere else consuming the things that actually add value to my life, that make me happy, or that expand my mindset. And a lot of the times, even if you are somebody who consuming that type of information or content or whatever the case, where people are doing that, do it after you've gotten some context and you've gotten to a place to where you can look at that stuff objectively and be able to say, I see why you think and feel that way, but I don't have to receive it.
Right.
That doesn't have to be my reality, but I understand, I can empathize with where you're coming from because of your experiences.
Right.
Even though they're not my own.
Yeah.
And I don't have to manipulate my reality to match yours because you feel convicted by this thing. But that is a learned skill and behavior that a lot of people may not have spent enough time actively trying to develop. Or at least they don't do that in their relationships.
Right.
But think about all of the other areas where people do tend to do this. They can do it in business. They can do it in everything else. They can do it in their schooling.
Right.
They can do it in fitness, whatever the case may be. People can find the example of what they desire and will run toward whatever that thing is and completely take their attention off of the destructive things that don't add value to it. But it's something about them relationships, man. Yeah. Those elements of the heart, man, that really like drag people down and allow them to be so susceptible to so many things that don't add value to the love that they actually want. And it's a tough position to be in. Yeah. It really is, because there's not enough. Maybe there's not. I don't see it as abundantly as I would like to, but there's not a whole lot of people today who talk about how amazing and beautiful relationships are and marriage are in its fullness, regardless of the high and the low moments. It's still a beautiful thing because you have two people that are together in harmony, actively looking to serve and love one another and make their lives better together.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I know. Something I was saying the other day is single people who are in the dating pool. They say the dating pool is trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also a lot of married people who talk about marriage in a way that is so unappealing.
Yeah.
In a sense. So I can see why people look at marriage and be like, I don't think I want to do that, because you telling me that I'm going to go from dating the dating pool, which is trash, and then I'm going to go into a miserable marriage. Like that doesn't even sound appealing to me at all. So it's like, why would someone go after that?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like something anyone would actually want. So of course I'm going to stay single.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That if everything you're saying about marriage is hard, it's challenging, is you got to change, you got to, like, that doesn't sound like fun. Yeah. In a sense,
like, ain't selling the good.
You ain't selling it. And it's like, okay, well, even in the hard times, the struggles, you're going to have that whether you're married or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, single people have struggles. They have hard times too. It's literally the same thing. Except in marriage, you ultimately have someone you're going through that with. Mm-hmm. You have a partner who can help you through that. But no one's talking about that part. So it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting, the narratives that people paint, even married people paint for what marriage looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm married and my marriage don't look like that. But if I was a single person and I heard that all the time, I don't think I would want to get married. Yeah.
But even though other people may speak like that doesn't mean that just because somebody else had a certain experience in their marriage does not mean that you're going to have the same one. Because believe it or not everyone is as intentional in the things that they're actively doing.
Ooh, that's
Believe it or not.
That's it.
There's a lot of people who are married and have been married for years, and they're still not intentional 10, 15, 20, 30 years in, and they just going through the motions. But there's also people who've been married for a year, 3, 5, and they've been hyper intentional. And the depth of their marriage, their relationship, their connection is significantly further along than people who have been together for over a decade, for 10, 20, 30 years, because of the quality of the time and the intention of the two people.
And that's the same thing in the dating world too.
Exactly.
Because I've heard horror stories about dating, but I've also heard beautiful stories about dating. So you have to make sure you are paying attention to the quality of the information you're receiving.
Yeah.
If this person is not intentional about what they're doing, if they're dating people who are trash, then of course they're going to have a trash experience. If a person is in a marriage and they're not really intentional about it and they're just going through the motions and things like that, of course the advice that they say about it is not going to be quality advice for someone who is more intentional about their marriage, who are actually pouring into their partner.
Man, come on, babe.
So you got to pay attention to that part too.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like context is really important. Like, I know in a world of social media, everything is 30-second clips, a minute clips. So you don't really get the full context of what's going on. And that's how it is in life too. But you have to, instead of taking on all of these beliefs that or thoughts that other people have, make sure you are doing your own research. Like, that's important. Like, somebody else's story doesn't have to be your story, like you said. So.
It's just an experience.
Yeah.
And our experiences don't always paint the perfect picture.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because the perception of where you are in life, what you've gone through, all of those things, they play such a huge role. And you also have to understand the intent of the people behind whatever that information is. Like, again, sometimes, I know we've said this before, sometimes people speak with their egos. Sometimes people can get really worked up because of something that may have happened to them before. Anything, but that's not your experience. It's like, it reminds me of all the times I've had so many people try to statistic me to death about why marriages fail and why relationships fail and all of that. But I'm like, bruh, do you not realize that the majority of people in any field are a reflection of those who have produced the lowest form of results?
Okay.
Basically, they're the lowest performers.
Okay.
Let me say that again because my words got jumbled up a little bit.
Please do. Yeah.
Statistically speaking, the largest majority of people in any field are a reflection of the lowest performers.
Okay.
So if you take the world population, the majority of people don't have apps.
Right.
The majority.
Yeah.
I think literally it's only somewhere around about 3 to 5% that are in that actual percentage of being fit, right?
Right.
If I had to guess, probably the majority of marriages fail.
Right.
The lowest performers. The majority of people aren't necessarily financially savvy. The majority of people that go to college don't use their degrees or end up getting in the fields that are completely opposite of whatever it is they went to school for. The majority of people in any domain are usually a reflection of the lowest performers. And if you're going to sit over here and take in information from people that are not even actively trying to be a part of the 1%, then why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like there's people over there in another field in marriage and relationships or whatever who are a reflection of those small percentage of people who are high performers in that area.
Right.
And it would probably be more beneficial to take that in to focus on the actual desired outcome rather than consuming yourself with people who don't even have the same desire to put forth the same level of intentional effort.
Okay.
Like, why would you want to focus your attention on what the lowest percentage of performers are doing? Why would I want to even focus my time, my attention, my effort on people who are already proven that their effort is probably not where it needs to be in that area? That's not your reality. Like that doesn't have to be the case for you.
Right.
You might care way more than the next person, which means that you might show up and put forth a way more productive and valuable effort in whatever it is that you're doing in your marriage, your relationship, and whatever it is, than the other people that are speaking down on it because they probably not trying as hard. They're probably not as intentional.
Right.
Why give them so much weight on what you decide to do with yourself, your relationship, and the things that you desire to have in life?
Right.
It don't make sense to me. Like it genuinely does not make sense to me. But I know that's one of those things that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Like being completely honest, because a lot of us can find ourselves being so vulnerable when the parts of us that we really want to have are not, it's not working out in our favor at the moment.
Right.
And so it opens you up to really being able to take in whatever it is that you're getting at the time. And I get that. Like there's a huge human element to that.
Yeah.
But once we become aware of it, we got to have the conscious awareness to do something different. If I want this thing in my life, what have I been doing that hasn't produced the result that I want? And how can I start doing something different that's actually in alignment with what I desire to have? Let's start with thinking like that.
Yeah.
Does this add value to the outcome that I actually want? That might be a good place to start. So that way we don't fall subject to social heredity, social conditioning of all of the stuff around us that's just flooding our mind with these unproductive thoughts and beliefs and all of this crap that doesn't actually add value to us.
Right.
That's all. So, baby, what's a step people can take to actually start doing something a little bit different when it comes to adding value to their marriage and their relationships?
Know what you want.
Absolutely.
Figure out exactly what it is you want in your relationship. Define that. Talk about that with your partner so y'all can both be on the same page about what that looks like for each other. Because you need to know what it looks like for them and they need to know what it looks like for you, and y'all need to come to a mutual ground. Like, how are we going to build this thing together to where we both are fulfilled in this relationship?
Come on.
Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. And then step 2, I would suggest that you would start unfollowing things that are not in alignment with what you and your partner have decided that y'all want in your relationship. And when I say unfollow, I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about friends. I'm talking about family. Anything that is any influence on on you and your partner.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not for what y'all are for, then it's against you.
Yeah.
Period. And that's just what it is. I think those are two good steps in the right, those are two
direction.
really strong steps to change things, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even before that, and something that you said, is you have to be really, really intentional about the people that you allow into your life.
Yes.
Because even though we may be sharing some of this stuff from our own perspective, of course, it's something that probably works best with having the right person who's genuinely adding value in your life.
Yeah.
And so one of those things that we have to be really aware of is sometimes people will try to apply good advice with the wrong people. And that can go south real fast.
Absolutely.
Because it might sound good over here, but if you're already in a situation that's not the best for you, it's probably not going to work out the same way.
And that's why it's important when you hear certain advice to talk about the advice with your partner before you try to apply anything.
Yeah.
Like, don't just go up in there and say, hey, this is what I'm going to start doing immediately. Wait a second now. Pump the brakes. You need to talk to your person before you implement anything. And that's something we've done. Is like, we've heard something, we're like, let's think about this thing. Let me talk to my husband about this. What you think about this? And we've talked about everything before we implemented anything.
Absolutely.
So you're right. Like, applying the right advice with the wrong person is a thing. And sometimes it's not even the wrong person. It's the fact that y'all ain't talked about it.
Yeah.
So if you're coming to your partner and you not even knowing if what you're trying to implement is in alignment with what y'all have set, because y'all haven't even talked about what y'all have had set. You don't even know, what y'all's desires are. So you coming to implement something that may be going against what they even want to.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to talk about what y'all's wants are in the relationship.
I know that's real.
Right?
Because it's been plenty of times, man, where I have heard something and I've thought of it as being like some pretty beneficial, be it advice or a suggestion or something like that, maybe it inspired me in some way. And I came to you and I shared with you my thoughts about what I heard. And I'm saying it specifically that way because it's not necessarily about what was said, but what was said and how that made you feel or what it made you think about what was said.
Yeah. Because
a lot of the times we hear something, but the way we apply it and the way that we respond to it is different from the way that we actually heard it or received it. Okay. It's a little bit of a difference there. So I'll hear something and then I'll share with you what that made me think or what that made me feel. And then I get your feedback from that. Yes. And then we talk about it and we have a mutual exchange or developing a thought around what was said. Yes. And then we come to an understanding of that together. Yes. And then from that point, we decide what we want to do with that information. Yes. Together. Yes. Rather than me just saying like, all right, my wife needs to be like this and I'm going to start treating her this way or I'm going to start doing this thing or whatever because it don't work like that. That's going to go left real quick. Real quick. Right. Because there's no context there and it would probably be the best. It would probably work better if you get your partner involved on these changes and the things that you're experiencing and taking in before you try to just run off with it so that way you can stay on the same page together. Because there's a secondhand influence in relationships. My partner, matter of fact, let's be real specific about this. When it comes to secondhand influences in relationships, anything that impacts me also touches my wife. Yes. So I have to be real mindful of the things that I allow to touch me and to touch my mind and my heart without communicating that stuff to you, because if I'm not communicating it to you, then I can end up becoming something completely different or trying to do certain things that impact you. And you're looking like, where did that come from? Because we haven't had communication about something that's been moving in me, something that's been changing in me. Right. And so I have to be forthcoming about that. So that way, if we decide to take action on something, to change something in our relationship, start moving different, it's a mutual decision that we came to together. And I didn't just allow something to influence me without bringing my partner in on that seeing how we can create something together that works for us and then doing something.
Yeah. And even in that, it's important to me to know about the things that move you so heavily.
Exactly.
That move you to action. Like, what was it about this thing that you heard that made you feel like you needed to change immediately?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it excited you to that extent, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to know why you want to do this thing. And then we have the, the mutual discussion on, what it's about or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's important for me to know why do you want to implement this thing?
Mm-hmm.
What made it move you so, what made it move you to action?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did the inspiration come from? I need to know. Yeah.
And that's how we've operated for so many years. It's like something moves one of us and then we include each other on it. Cause I'm like, hey, you know what? Babe, this was dope. Like I just heard this thing or whatever. I checked this out. You check it out. And then I get your feedback from how it connected with you.
Yes.
If it connects at all.
Yeah.
And then we can have a mutual exchange because I might have gotten something completely different from it. Mm-hmm. But now we can talk about it and we can form a shared opinion, a thought about it, or we can notice our differences. Mm-hmm. But the dope thing is that if we notice our differences, that says pause before we do anything else.
Right.
Because there's a divide.
Right.
We back up, we reassess, and then maybe we do something with whatever was shared with us, whatever the case may be. Maybe we do something with it, maybe we don't. Mm. But regardless of what happens, we stay in a state that allows our partnership and our union to maintain the priority. Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you.
I thought you was finna keep going.
Like that was it.
Was that it? I thought
us and our union is the priority. No outside influence can come in and disrupt that.
I know that's right.
Period.
I like when we listen to something and we have differences.
Yeah.
Like that's so exciting to me because we've been together for 12, almost 13 years, married 10 years. And I'm like, when we have moments where our thoughts or opinions are different, it's exciting to me because I'm like, I'm getting to learn a different part of you because we agree on a lot of things. Like how we think it's pretty similar at this point because we're both on growth mindset type stuff.
Right.
But when we have differences, that is exciting to me because I get to learn more from you. It gives me more context of who you are and who you're trying to become. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting to me. So like when people have asked us like, do we disagree and things like that? I'm like, well, yeah, of course we disagree. Like we're two totally different people. Yeah. But it's exciting to disagree sometimes for me, because I get to learn.
And it allows us to be able to peek inside each other's mind.
Yeah.
And we really, what was it, maybe a week or two ago, we just had a moment like that where we were talking about accountability. And I had a complete, and we ain't gonna turn this episode into that.
Yeah.
But I had a completely different thought process around it.
Yeah.
But then as we continued to talk about it more, what we started realizing is that we were talking about different categories of accountability.
Yes.
And it's not that either of our opinions were wrong. It's just that I was talking about personal accountability and you were talking about general accountability. And it took us some going back and forth to be able to realize actually we both right. But we haven't categorized the particular type of accountability that we're discussing.
Right.
And it took us, that little bit of an exchange to get to that realization. Like, hey, you know what? We both kind of on track here, but I think there's something we haven't pointed out just yet.
Yeah.
But that was cool. Like, and it was a cool little debate for a minute. It wasn't nothing hostile or anything like that. But the initiator of that was something influenced me. Something came in.
And you was reading a book.
I was reading a book. And they was talking about accountability. And they generalized personal accountability without saying that.
Yes.
And so we started, we hopping in Google, we looking up definitions, we doing all of this stuff. And we was like, oh, so we're both right, but we're talking about it in two different categories, so to say. But that's what it was. And ultimately we kind of figured that thing out.
Yeah.
But in the point of that, something came into me outside of me, some different knowledge, some different information that made me think differently about something because you was working on, your business and your coaching and stuff like that. And we had to, in that moment, get to a place to where we both had some level of understanding because you were looking for, I think, like some guidance or something like that on how you wanted to move in your coaching program. And we were talking about, different ways of being able to help people and how accountability plays a role in your ability to be able to coach people and be effective and all of this stuff. And ultimately it ended up just coming back to how can we take this thought or this influence that came from outside of us and talk through this thing and really see where we both land.
You know what I think is dope though about the moments where we disagree? We never look at each other like we're wrong.
Yeah.
Like I don't tell you, oh, you're wrong for feeling that way.
That's
and you
real.
never tell me I'm wrong for feeling the way that I do. It's like, no, like, let me know why you feel this way. Let's talk about, where this came from to where you came to this thought or opinion about whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
And we literally talk through that. So I love that about us. It's like, no, like ain't no right or wrong. It's just what is. Like this is just what it is. And this is just how I feel. And we talk through that. Like, I think that's dope though.
It is like, and that's empathizing.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact I've never tried to make you not feel like your thoughts or feelings were like not valid.
Right.
And so anytime we have moments where we're at odds or we have a different thought or belief around something, all I'm looking for is to see why you feel the way that you feel.
Yes.
I'm looking for understanding.
Yes.
And I won't tell you that you're wrong. I'm looking to understand that you have a certain perspective for a reason.
Yes.
And I don't have to agree with the reason.
Right.
Your reason is your reason.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know where it comes from.
Right.
And then I can look at your reason and I can look at my own reason. And then if mine is different, okay.
Right.
It's okay for us to feel differently.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put you in a position where you have to deny your own beliefs because you've had a different experience from me. And that's okay.
Right.
We don't have to battle that.
Yeah. And not all disagreements go against the relationship.
Exactly.
Like it's okay for us to disagree about stuff and our relationship still thrive in the best way possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, man, and that's the dope thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can really be that intentional in your relationship to where a lot of the things that move and can make such a huge impact on other people's relationship, you can get to a point where that doesn't have to be the case in your own. Just by having a little bit of empathy and compassion and conscious awareness about what's moving you in your relationship, where the relationship is going, why you're together, the way that you are, and so many different things like that add value to your ability to just show up and be present with your partner and not be so easily influenced by everything outside of you.
Right.
Like just being able to show up and be there with you in these moments and grow through these different processes together, like to me, it's just dope.
Right.
Like it's so dope because I think the way that we love each other and the way that we connect with one another, it allows us to look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it's worked in our favor.
Yeah.
And I think that if you guys do your best to implement a portion of what we've shared here in your own unique way, I think it can be extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
And just know the heart of your person and realize that nobody's opinion about your relationship should outweigh your own. And the influences that come outside of you, take the time to really be able to evaluate this stuff against your own beliefs, your own values, and the things that serve you, and consciously choose what you want to reject and what you want to accept and include your partner in that.
Yeah. Because ultimately you chose to be with them.
Exactly.
So how you feel about them and how they feel about you and how y'all feel about y'all's relationship is what's most important.
Big facts. Tell them what you told them, babe.
I said what I said.
Hey, family, if you guys have gotten any value out of today's episode, please do like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, give us a 5-star rating, man, if you think we deserve it. Interact with us, man, to let us know what you think about the show. Again, my name is John Trone. This is my beautiful queen.
Adoria.
We are one dope couple, and it has been a pleasure, family. So until next time, peace and love.